I'm not sure I'll be able to convey this in a way that I think is makes it uh, its remarkableness quite so apparent to those who are watching this, but I'll try. Um, I'm talking about synchronicity. Synchronicity, to me, is one of those phenomena that just can't really be explained, but it happens so often that it's got to mean something. Um, but what does it mean? I don't know. It's just uh, I think that the most I'll say about it is to dismiss it as a coincidence is just absurd. Um, I mean, coincidences do happen, but when things sync up in this manner to such an extent so many times, then one gets the impression of a pattern. without without getting too skitsy here, I know people will just say I'm being skitsy. I know I have my critics, and they say what they say. But what the hell? Um, what am I talking about? Well, I have been reading a lot lately. I've been spending a lot of time behind the wheel of my automobile, and uh, never mind why. That's not really important. But one thing I have found is that when I'm driving a lot, it's a good time to read, which is paradoxical because how can you read when you're driving? Well, you can if you've got audio, an audiobook. And I used to think that audio recordings of books was almost like cheating, like you're not really reading it if you're just hearing it read. But I can't really think that because then that means all blind people are illiterate, doesn't it? And I don't want to say that. So I don't think it's cheating. I think it's still reading, um, especially when it has your attention and you are noting the words and you are noting what's happening and you're not just zoning out. I mean, if it's just a question of zoning out, you can also zone out when you're reading words on a page. So, anyhow, that's maybe came across as a little overly defensive, but but let me get to the point here. At the 3 minute mark, I will get to the point of this video. I was reading James Joyce's A Portrait of the Artist as a Young Man for the first time since I think maybe college. And that novel ends with a famous line, which I can't remember verbatim right now, but which goes something like, "Welcome, O life. Uh, I I set forth to forge in the smithy of my soul the uncreated conscience of my race. I set forth to forge in the smithy of my soul the uncreated conscience of my race." I believe it goes like something like that. But I do know about the smithy of my soul. That's used as a metaphor. Well, I also just happened to start reading the works of David Foster Wallace for the first time, and as opposed to reading it for the second or third or fourth time, which is what it was with the Joyce novel. Although it's been a while. So it just so happened that the next story that was available on the collection of David Foster Wallace short stories was titled, guess what? Guess what it was titled? It was titled "The Soul is Not a Smithy." The soul is not a smithy. A direct response, the title is, to those famous words at the end of James Joyce's novel, A Portrait of the Artist as a Young Man. It just happened to line up that as soon as I finished James Joyce's novel, which contained that line with that famous metaphor comparing the soul to a smithy, that the next bit of reading that was available for me to read in this collection of short stories by David Foster Wallace was titled The Soul is Not a Smithy. So, again, you come across this highly unusual metaphor to forge in the smithy of my soul. Who uses the word smithy ever these days? Anyway, in our illiterate age, who says smithy, or who even exactly knows what a smithy is? I had to look it up. I had an idea just from context, but uh, but it's an unusual turn of phrase. And then for the next thing you come across to be a title that contradicts that very sentiment, that very unusual metaphor, using this very unusual word, or this word that doesn't come up very much in even amongst fairly literate people. Again, synchronicity. What does it mean? Where does it mean I should fall on the question of whether or not the soul can be metaphorically compared to a smithy? I don't know. But what I will say is it's interesting.